But you look good, man.
And I feel good. I've got the old man disease where I wake up in the morning and I'm a little sore from this and sore from that. And if I work hard the day before and stuff like that, but I mean, that's expected, you know. It is what it is. It's a part of it. I've decided that getting old is not what it was all cracked up to be when you were young. It's like, man, my favorite time of my life, somebody asked me the other day, they said, if you could go back, you know, what was the coolest thing of your life, the one event or this, that, and that? And I said, my event was when my son got baptized.
Right.
I said, that was the coolest thing ever. And I said, and then next was meeting my wife.
Yeah.
And I said, those two things that I hold super close. I said, but the best time of my life was in the 60s and 70s. We lived for tomorrow.
Yeah.
We lived for that moment. We lived for the hour. We had lived for the sun. Okay, we got 30 more minutes.
Right.
I mean, I could almost place the sun. Never wore a watch in my life. I think, all right, I got 30 more minutes to play, and then I got to head home because if I ain't home for dinner, my dad wouldn't open my door. He taught me time frame. If you're 15 minutes before you're supposed to be here, you're on time.
Yep.
If you're here exactly when you're supposed to be, I may be locking the door as you turn the handle to get in.
I love it.
But it didn't take
what a
but one
different time, right? We would leave in the morning after breakfast, and we would not go home.
I would not wait
until dark.
We were born. I lived in a little town called Jolton, and back then Jolton was. You saw somebody coming down the road. It was
I know Jolton, still a little town.
When they went to work in the mornings, that's when you saw cars. During the day, you very rarely saw a car coming up and down the road. So we played in the streets. I mean, we played fields and valleys, and we'd go off in the woods. But I was raised. What's so funny is I was raised in a trailer till I was 12. There was 5 of us.
Yeah.
We didn't know any different.
Yeah.
We thought we were rich because we had fun.
Right.
And being rich is, I think, always is in your mind.
Right.
I never thought it was about money.
Right.
I still don't think it's about money. That's one of the things that gets me through a lot of times is the fact that I'm rich with love, people that love me, people that hang around with me, people that call me friend. You know, that's the stuff that I call rich.
Yeah.
But the point to this whole thing is the doors had little latches on the top chains. Well, I learned how to turn that little knob,
right.
You know, to open the door
Right.
to get out. Well, Mom started locking it because I would leave before daylight.
Right.
I woke up, go to the bathroom, pee, throw a pair of blue jeans on.
Same clothes as the day before.
Right. Yeah, if they wasn't dirty, wear them again.
Yep.
And it's so funny. I still do that today when I'm working.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm working out in the yard or stuff, I'll take them off, look at them, fold them up, say, don't wash them. I'm going to wear them again tomorrow.
Drives Carrie crazy. I did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
She can't stand it.
Yeah. And so my mom started locking that chain in the morning.
Yeah.
Well, you know, a trailer door is not like at least back then it wasn't. It's not like a regular solid wooden door. They're
more like an
aluminum
RV door.
framed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was not a very big kid, you know. I was little. And I'd push that door open. If I could get my head through it, I was like a mouse, buddy. I could get everything else through it. And I'd shut the door.
Yeah.
Well, she'd get up at 7:30, 8 o'clock, you know, sun shining, checking on my sisters. And I'd be gone. And she'd go and look at that door. She couldn't figure it out. How the hell are you getting out of this house? She was looking at screens on the windows. The screens was on the windows. She'd open that door. Jimmy! I'd be, what? Where are you at?
Now you can't get the kids to leave the house, right?
No,
now it's like
just
sitting on the
the
couch on
opposite.
the phone and
It's like-
stuff. Now it's like, and you say, when I was a kid, and they're like, Dad, when you were a kid, there were dinosaurs. And you're like, no, that's not true.
No, I pick on my son all the time. I said, you know, back when I was a kid, right after they invented dirt, we used to play in the shit.
Right. Right.
We'd get it on our arms,
Right.
you know.
Right. You didn't have phones. You didn't have TVs.
Oh, no.
No.
When I was about, I'd say 15, Atari come out.
Oh, yeah.
Which I still have one, by the way.
Pong. Doot, doot. Right.
And people see that today and go, what the hell?
Right.
I said, that was our video game. That was the thickest extent of
Absolutely.
it. That was our mind back then, you know.
We played all day, and then football came out, right? Then the football.
Oh, the
came
little
out, they
bitty
handed
white
out-
one?
Yeah,
I got one of those, dude. and that's when the head and hand started coming into effect. And
well, all my neighbors, they used to be better, and so I just put it away. That was the end of the video game thing for me when I just get my butt kicked in football, and I was like, I'm done.
Yeah, well, me and my wife bought my mom and dad's place, and was going to just keep it and rent it out up in Jolton. It was a decent sized piece of property, and the old house and everything. And so when my dad moved all of his stuff to the back of the property, he had built a house on the back, and we moved all his stuff. I found my old Mattel football game, and it was the original. You can buy them now.
You need to take that on Antique Roadshow.
Yeah.
They'd be like, what is this?
Yeah. Yeah.
My girls went into a house where there was a phone that was connected to the wall, and they were amazed. They thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Like, you pick it up, dial it, what? And it's connected to the wall?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then one of my neighbors growing up used to tell me that you could always tell the kids that came from tough backgrounds in school because they all ate lobster sandwiches, lobster rolls for lunch. How about that? Because their dad were fishermen, right? And so they'd bring home some of the catch.
Oh, yeah, because you were from Maine.
Their dad would bring home some of the catch, and they'd cook it up, and so that's all they ate at school. So you imagine now kids taking lobster rolls to school.
Rough background here in the country, though, was sausage for every meal.
Sausage, yeah, right.
Mom, sausage again. Till we eat that hog, we ain't killing the cow.
I'd ask friends growing up to come over for dinner, and the first question was, "What kind of chicken is your mom cooking tonight?" Sorry, Mom, if you see this.
I had an uncle that my grandmother passed away when I was 5, and he was 10. And so my mom pretty much raised my uncle. He was like my big brother.
Right.
And then, of course, my mom had 2 other brothers, and one was kind of still bouncing around from here to there trying to figure out his life, what he wanted to do. My other uncle was married, and he lived in the trailer next to us.
Yeah.
We were like 2 trailers,
Yeah.
And so he would stay kind of halfway at home and with my granddad and halfway with us, one of us. So he got to where he was a little, my uncle loved to eat. I mean, eat. He was a fit guy. He worked his butt off. He was just like Mr. Muscle Man all the time. You'd see him, he's working out. And so he would call my mom and he'd say, "Hey, what's for dinner tonight?" "Oh, we're having spaghetti." "Okay, are you coming?" "Hold on just a second, let me call you right back." Then he'd call my uncle. "Hey, what are y'all having tonight?" "Pork chops." What are you having with it?" "Oh, mashed potatoes and greens beans." "All right, I'll be over in a minute. I got to call Nancy and tell her we're not coming to eat spaghetti again tonight."
Hedging it, right? I love it.
That was the good days, man. And that's all we had to worry about,
Yeah.
That was life.
And now I worry constantly about my 2 girls, 14 and 17. They'll be actually 15 and 18 here the next couple of weeks. So,
yeah. With my son, I started early, and he had everything stacked against him with his mom and my separation and divorce. He had everything stacked against him. Yeah. He could have went that direction with that and didn't. And we had built that relationship almost instantly.
Yeah.
And when I left, he left. It's so funny when sometimes we get into a conversation and he'll say, "Dad, you remember back when we got divorced?" We
got divorced, right? Yeah. I love it.
Because he left with me the day I left.
Yeah.
I had full custody from him from that point on. And I didn't do it the way my dad did me.
Right.
I did it in a different approach because my dad was raised. He was raised with the belt, and the backhand and the smacks and the
snap of the belt.
Oh no, my dad was a fireman, man. He had a belt about that thick, and he finally later on in life admitted to me that he said I was over the line. He said, "Yeah, I was." They'd probably put me in jail today for how I beat you back then.
Well, when my dad would give us the belt, my 2 older brothers would sit around the corner just out of his sight, and they would try to make me laugh. So he'd be whacking me with the belt, and it was never aggressive. It was just was the build up before the belt came out was the fear, and when it actually happened, it wasn't that bad because he wasn't going to hurt me. But my brothers would sit around the corner making faces at me, stuff like that, trying to get me to break up. Because if you broke up, then it would start hurting.
Yeah, then it was on.
Then it was.
That's when you did the 3-step dance. Around in circles. Oh, make me do.
But having $2, I never had to even. They've always been just so well behaved. They listen.
Yeah, I only had to spank my son one time, and I think it broke my heart. And I know it broke his because he cried and he looked at me and then he peed all over himself.
Yeah.
And all I did was spank him with my hand, 2 swats on the butt.
Right.
But the fact that I think that he realized that he disappointed me so much to do that, and then he saw that look in my eye of disappointment. He was like 6, 7, and his older stepbrother had talked him into saying something to me.
Yeah.
And that's what triggered it. And I looked at him and I said, "What?" And I just, because I didn't want that to ever happen again, those words to come out of his mouth again. And I cried, he cried, and we was over it. And, of course, he got in the shower and cleaned himself up. And then I took his brother in the other room and wore his ass. I said, "Now, how fun was that?" Fun while it lasted, wasn't it? Yeah.
Right.
Fun while it lasted. But, that's the only time. And even when he got into his teens, my granddad would say, "He's going to test you.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to test you." He said, "But I'm going to give you the best advice I was ever given." He said, "Put yourself in his shoes."
Mm-hmm.
Back when you was his age, with the testosterone, the girls, and the mind game that he's putting himself through.
Yeah.
And he said, "Put yourself in his shoes, and you'll get through it."
Yeah.
We never had an issue, hardly.
Right.
Never had an issue.
My mom, bless her heart, raising 3 boys and 1 girl, I couldn't do it. I wouldn't be up for that. But she was tough.
I'll tell you this one, it's getting pretty deep, but the only thing that we had, every issue we ever had, was when I married my wife 3 years after I got divorced. She was just an absolute blessing to us. She loved me and him equally, as if, she was her own. When we got married, our kids were there as witnesses. Yeah. And we told them both, we're getting married, but you are getting married with us.
Right.
We're not going to use the word step.
Yeah. You're
my son, and, that's that. And he had a hard time with it.
Yeah.
And because his mom was had the addiction that she had, and never came around him and wouldn't have anything to do with him, and when she did, it was manipulative and that sort of thing, and he could see right through it, and I didn't have to say a word. He was like smart beyond his years.
Yeah.
And he started being a little arrogant to my wife, and I was like, "Look, dude, let's go downstairs and talk." I said, "What's up with this?" I said, "I thought we had all this stuff worked out." And he goes, "Well, I said, "Well, wait a minute. Slow down before you get started." I said, "There's no sense in getting upset." I said, "What is the problem?" And he said, "She acts like she's my mother." And I said, "Man, you ought to feel privileged that she loves you that much.
It's a blessing.
To treat you like that. And all she was asking you was to hang your clothes up that she had washed and folded for you and laid on your bed."
Right.
I said, "Where did that?" He said, "Yeah, but Dad," he said, "how can she love me so much and my own mama can't?"
There's no answer.
And he just broke down and bawled. And of course I did too, I was like, I don't know the answer to that, but we'll figure it out one day. I said, But you know what? Don't ruin this because of that.
Yeah. What a perfect thing to say.
And
I don't know the answer, right?
Yeah, I didn't.
I'm human. I don't got. We'll see. Let's wait it out.
Yeah. And so now, just like this morning, he's got, if any of you out there need some Australian Shepherd puppies, he's got a litter of puppies, and one of my wife's friends saw it on Facebook and said, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I want one of those. Is that your son?" Yeah. Give him my number, blah, blah. So they called to talk about that one thing.
Yeah.
I'm on the phone leaving the house. They're still on the phone talking. And I never interrupt because I'm so thankful that they have that relationship.
Yeah.
And then, she has a son that's 32, Carter, and I have a granddaughter with them and a wonderful daughter-in-law, and we're just like this.
Yeah.
All of us are.
Yeah.
And it's there's never used the word step.
Yeah.
I think it's a degrading thing.
Right.
It's an out.
Right.
It gives some. Oh, that's just my step.
Yeah, it's a barrier.
Yeah,
right.
That's just my step.
Right.
And
my daughters don't do it with their stepfather.
Yeah.
they don't, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Well, my son,
he's with them
he
more
doesn't
than
call my wife Mom. He calls her Chris.
Right.
But when hey, I love you. Yeah. When they hang a phone up, it's like, And I remember the day that because her son he was really mentally abused more so than anything by his dad, and he has a hard time trusting anyone.
Sure.
And it took, gosh, 4, 5, 6 years for him to really trust me. Like, okay, I guess this guy's going to be around.
Right.
You know? And we were doing something one day, and I think we were at Center Hill Lake, and we were at the marina there, and we were getting ready to move our boat because we were going to sell it and buy that place in Florida.
Pace Forward?
Pace Forward, yeah. And so we were getting all the stuff out of it, and then Carter called and asked me a question about something. And I always end the conversation with, "Hey, I love you."
Yeah.
Because I don't like regrets.
Yeah.
And it was the very first time he told me back.
Yeah.
And I just dropped the phone and started bawling. Chris going, "What is it? What is it?" I said, "He said he loved me."
Jim, you big softy.
I'll do. When it comes to my family, I can be hard about a lot of things, but when it comes to my family, that's mine.
I had a few tears the other night when I went to my daughter's last time cheering in high school, right? And I left the gym and went out to my car, and I was just like, she's not going to cheer in college. And that was probably the last time I get to do that. And what a privilege, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I saw a guy walking into the Y yesterday, and his little daughter was asleep on his shoulder, and I just looked at him and said, "I missed that." And he knew exactly what I was talking about. Yeah. It's like, I missed that.
Yeah, me and a buddy of mine talked about that this weekend. He said, I'm taking off the road. I'm not booking every weekend this year, just so you know. And I was like, okay. And he's got 2 little ones. He's got one like in 2nd grade and got a little girl. And I said, hang on to those first.
Yeah.
And he went, what? I said, first step, first words, first day at school, first day at middle school, birthdays. I don't miss any of those.
Yeah.
I said, I didn't. I said, that's why I bailed out of the music industry when I did.
Yeah.
When I found out my son was coming in the world, I know it was going to be a boy or girl, but I thought there's only one person that can break this chain, and that's me.
Yeah.
Don't miss any of those first.
Ain't that the truth?
And he goes, dude, we got to write that. And I said, I've been trying.
It's in here. It's in here. I got to give birth to it first.
It always winds up in tears. So, I think about all the birthdays and the stuff that I got to be there for.
There you go. It always winds up in tears.
Yeah. The first one, he was scared to death of his birthday cake. The second one, he was face down in it,
Yeah. I have a buddy my age who had his first child just a few years ago. And I was talking to him when we pulled up in the parking lot here today. And the thing I love is that he gets it. He does appreciate every single thing that little girl is doing down there in Fisher, Texas.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
It's amazing. Children I always say they're a gift of God, and how anyone could abuse the child just blows my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so when, my thought was so-and-so this and so-and-so that, because you as well as I know that negative news is what sells today. Mm-hmm. You know that more so than I do.
Gee, Jim, where'd you hear that bunk?
And when I was, and I was thinking back not long ago, I was like, what happened to the good news break to where there was 15 minutes of nothing?
They put that the last 30 seconds.
Yes, the last 30 seconds. Now, you're lucky to get 30. I was watching the other night, and it was 5 seconds.
Right. Here's a cute animal. Here's a cute puppy.
Here's a baby taking its first steps in Texas at a daycare while mom has to work, and they have it on video though.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, that's amazing, but we need more of that. Everybody's tired of the who shot John. That's why I like to say it. Mm-hmm. Who shot John? Who stabbed Joe? Quit giving those people the praise. Because I was always raised, if you praise those people for their bad actions, they're going to do it again because they're not going to be in jail very long. And then you got these copycat people. Ooh, look at the attention they got.
Right.
Because a lot of people still strive for attention, whether it's good or it's bad. It's attention to them.
Right.
And that's where your copycat people come into play.
Well, I mean, I think it's the old saying that everyone slows down to see a car accident, right? It's just this. It's the weird psychology it's based on. I just think it's because we're not good at telling good stories.
Yeah.
I think we're programmed to tell bad stories. We're not programmed to tell good stories that captivate people, and so that's on us, right?
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, I wasn't. I wasn't raised that way. I did it one time to my granddad. I called him and was telling him about so-and-so that passed away. And then about a week later, I called him again. I said, guess what? So-and-so passed away. He said, you know what? He said, next time somebody dies, let me figure it out for my damn self.
I'm going to stop picking up the phone when you call.
Yeah, he said, or I'm not cool taking your calls. That's what he told me. And then so my wife sometimes she'll be sitting in the bed in the morning going through and going like, oh my God, so-and-so's at the funeral. That's the third person that's died this week. And I'm going like, shh, read in silence. Mm-hmm. I don't want to hear this crap.
Well, I've told a lot of people that in the 3 months since I left local news, I feel like I live in a safer city.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. If you don't watch it.
Yeah. Now, burying your head is not a good thing.
No.
But on the other hand, when you're in such a concentrated mix of it,
exactly,
it does weigh on you, and you need to take inventory once in a while and step away.
Yeah.
So I get that,
and not believe the hype, because, and this was obviously, I know for a fact that we've had this conversation before.
We have.
You read
Amerigos.
You read the teleprompter,
right,
what it says, and you can't veer from that.
Yeah.
So what you're telling people is not from your heart. It's not from your mind. It's from somebody back there going, yeah, this is going to sound awesome. We had 5 murders today, 5 stabbings today, and you're just the bearer of bad news.
Right. Well, for any producers that I work with that are watching this today, they will tell you that, no, he never read the script the way he was supposed to.
Yeah.
I wrote beautifully for him, and that idiot would not read the script that I put forward.
Perfect.
But the material would never change.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the thing.
It was what it was.
It's the content. Like yeah.
So where does Neil go now? What's your second or third chapter? What do you want to call it? Third? I guess it'd be your third. Radio,
well, let's
TV.
See. I've had 6 midlife crises, 3 chapters. So we'll call it 4th chapter, 7th midlife crisis. Are we there?
I got you.
Okay, it's like a hymnal now at this point.
Oh.
You know what? I am waking up at 1:30 for almost 30 years. You don't understand how much it affects you and your body and your outlook and how you behave during the day. Honestly, Jim, I would not remember conversations after 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon that I would have with people completely sober. Just because your brain is just shutting down at that point. It's late night for you. So the first week is like being on vacation, and you're like, oh, great, no more job, I'm good, and wake up. The second week, you start waking up at 1:30 and you're trembling because you're having panic attacks.
Detox.
And it took about 3 months, really, to just recently where I started feeling comfortable in my own skin again, and people that see me, like, you're like a different person now. You can actually carry on a conversation. You couldn't do that before.
Perfect timing.
Perfect, right, right.
Here you have it, folks.
So I decided pretty early on I was going to kind of do some things I haven't done before. So I'm training for an Ironman half triathlon, 70.3 miles. I'm taking improv classes right now down at Third Coast Comedy. I'm working with a friend of mine, Nick Heider, with Hit Lab on some my own on-air online stuff. So it's. I've actually been busier the last 3 months than I have in the last 29 years. It's incredible how that happens. I am so busy not making money right now. It's wild. I talk the producer, the legendary producer in this town, the senior executive producer over at Nashville Public Television, asked me to come in and try to host some of the Tennessee Crossroads shows.
Oh, that'd be cool. I
love that show.
Yeah.
Joe Elmore. I mean,
if you wanted to not make
Joe.
money, you could have gotten in the music business with me, I retired at 50, 52, 53, got in the music business, back in the music business after getting out of it. And it's so funny. People go, hey, dude, how much does it, cost to get in the music? I said, the best thing I can tell you is you take $2 million and you'll lose $1 million right off the bat.
Right. Burn $1 million and then see where you go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this town has known for that, right?
Oh, yeah.
The 10-year town and 20-year town.
Gimme.
Yeah, I get that. No, Carrie looks at me and she's like, you need to get out of the house. You're so busy doing nothing, making no money. You need to, please, find some focus and get going. I'm like, okay, 3 months is over. Time to start working again.
Gotcha.
So I don't know what I'm going to do actually, but I got some ideas.
I got some great inventions that I've come up with that I'm tinkering with now.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I got one really cool one. And I've got an uncle in St. Louis, and he's thinking about moving this way.
Yeah.
And we've always said that we were going to make that our last hurrah.
Yeah.
So you heard it here first, guys.
Yeah.
We are going to. He actually was.
Are you going to be
guy,
on Shark Tank?
No, he was the guy. We don't have to be. He already had this one. He was the guy that invented when he was in college and high school. He got with his company and he stocked the condom vending machines in truck stops and gas stations back when they used to be in there. Some are still. I still every once in a while we
I have
as
no
much
idea what
traveling.
you're talking about.
Yeah, right. And so he invented. He's about 10, 15 years older than me. He invented the glow in the dark condom. That was his big thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So and then when the company he worked for was a subsidiary, correct me if I'm wrong, not of Trojan, I think so it was. They split off and got merged and bought. He took half of his money and put it in stock, just constantly. And then they would send him blanks, and he would just sit there and him and his wife would sit there and roll them and package them, and if he bought them in blanks and did his own packaging, he made that much more money. So all these years,
That's firing blanks, you don't really need them, do you?
That's all exactly.
He's talking a lot of double. I'm losing focus on what you're saying because everything you say, I'm now thinking about a glow in the dark condom.
Long story short, I come up with an idea.
Long story short, here we go again. Not even big enough to light up a closet with the glow in the dark.
They make the ones that slide over your fingers when you're doing mail. But
so let me guess, you're going to do perfume scents in truck laboratories that you put a quarter in.
We're doing this for the sportsman, the
Okay.
fisherman, the hunter, and anybody that wears camouflage condom.
Wow.
And our punchline, don't y'all steal this because I've already got it somewhat patent. It's camouflage packaging. Of course, it's a blank on the inside. It's just a novelty type item, but we're going to sell them by the gross. Hand this out to your buddies. But it's in camouflage orange. It's got little sayings, and I'll tell you the funniest one that's going to be on there, but it's "She'll never see you coming."
I thought you were saying, what you can't see can't hurt you, but yours is better.
I've had that idea, and I told it to him at his dad's funeral. His dad was my great uncle, and he was one of the funniest guys. I mean, he was the guy that could make you laugh at a funeral on Christmas Day, and Sunday.
Right.
Add all three of that together. He was that guy, and I told him, I said, you know what? I said, I got the funniest thing I want to tell you, and I said, it's a great idea. It's going to make a bunch of money, and and I'm telling him that in the waiting room.
In the way.
He goes, "This has got Charlie written all over it." And I said, "Yep, pretty much."
Jim Brown's company went under because no one could find his product when they really, really needed it.
Yeah, really. Where the hell is it?
We're in the duck blind. Where is it? Can't find it.
Oh man, but yeah, that's going to be our last hurrah.
Good. I like that. I wrote a sitcom after I got out of Channel 2 there that that could be my last hurrah.
Yeah.
Right. So I just wrote 13th episode for it the other day actually. So we're going to see where that goes.
All right. Can we get a little hint of what it's about?
Well, I spent 30 years researching the topic. Is that a good enough hint?
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
Anchorman.
John Burgundy here. Ron Burgundy, come on, Ron Burgundy.
Got to change the name.
Well,
got to change the name.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Couldn't find a better guy to play that part too. So
that's hilarious. When are these condoms coming out? By the way, just asking for a friend.
And probably 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years. Okay.
Yeah, we're still working on the project.
Good.
We haven't found the packaging yet. It's eluding us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Shoot.
So, man, I tell you what, it's cool to be able to interview you one time instead of, I was telling somebody the other day, they was like, you're going to interview. Oh, wow, that's different.
He's not really associated. He did play on the Grand Ole Opry stage with Charlie Daniels, so I do have that. Yeah.
What did you?
No, I play a little guitar with him.
Oh,
actually.
cool.
Oh, yeah. I met Charlie one time, and I picked up one of his guitars, started playing it a little bit, and he's like, "You play?" He's like, "Well, I got this concert for kids coming up, Christmas for kids," and he said, "Come play with me." So I went on stage and I started playing. I got nervous. I turned the volume all the way down on my guitar.
Hell, I do that every night.
But the pictures look good.
Yeah.
And all my friends that came to town to make that stage that didn't make it are pissed at me. But it was a moment that, it's one of those Nashville moments, right?
So in your
Are we going to start the podcast soon?
yeah.
Okay. Let me know.
So in your tenure of 30 years, I guess you would call it, who were some of the most influential people that you met? I mean, it could be an artist or something like that that really stands out. Somebody really cool. I mean,
Here's the thing. The way it works with me these days is every day I could probably answer this question a little bit differently. To have a front row seat in Nashville to all the great things that happen here, to do the CMA red carpet for 20-something years, to be able to just go to all these events, be in the front row, and check it out. I've met so many incredible people over the years. I don't know. I have a buddy, Mitch Ballard, who's I met him one of the first days I got here at the bar at Tootsie's, and we've been friends for 30 some odd years now. I've made friendships here with you and a whole bunch of people that will last a lifetime, and that's just how this city is. But man, Steve McNair jumping on his car during the parade, coming around the corner there when they just lost the Super Bowl to the Rams, and I was standing there in a corner, and I'm standing there with a photographer, and I see Steve and his wife, and he gives me a little it's okay to approach. And I just jumped up on that car, and I was rolling through the parade, interviewing him there, and everyone back at the station's like, "What? What?" And now it shows up. Every time they do a documentary on Steve McNair, I'm in it.
There you are.
And I hear from people all across the country going, "Was that you? I just saw you. But having a front row seat to some of the awful things that happen in this town too have some meaning as well to me, just because they're just defining moments for a city that's growing like we have, and the way we always seem to respond in the most proper way is always amazing to me there. And I know a lot of people say that about every city USA, because this is a great country. Yeah. But Nashville has an extremely incredible way of wrapping their arms around people that are going through tough tragedies there. But
what about an artist, whether it be country or rock, that stands out among all of them?
I mentioned Charlie. Charlie was pretty special, just because he was just a salt of the earth kind of guy, and he was just always wonderful. I thought meeting John Daly was pretty cool, because he remembered my daughter's names after not seeing him for 6 months or so. And I always thought that's incredible about some of these people. Like you see Garth Brooks, he hadn't been out in public in a long, long time. And he would go down the red carpet at the CMAs, and he wouldn't just acknowledge the people in front of the camera. He knew everyone behind the scenes names too.
Yes.
And you sit there and you watch this guy, and you're like, how many people does he run into a day? And he still connects. People like that, like Albert Hainsworth. When I met Albert, I was like, you know everything about everything. Like, you were a lineman in the NFL. And I realized that in order to get to that level, you don't only have to be a physical specimen, you have to be a mental specimen.
Exactly.
And that's so I'm constantly amazed by all the people I meet in this town.
It's funny you should mention Garth. I met Garth in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And we both lived in Goodlettsville.
Yeah.
And actually the first time I met him, we were hauling hay.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we kept our friendship, like that. We never really went over into music and shot basketball, that kind of thing, And I was like, I am friends with Garth Brooks, but I never let it go to my head.
Yeah.
And of course, my wife and my daughter were huge Garth Brooks. I mean, just they couldn't even talk to him hardly, when they would meet him, and but we went 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Really didn't talk.
Yeah.
Hey, the kind of thing, and he knew my name, my son's name. How's your mom? How's Miss Nancy?
Yeah.
I'm like, how do you remember all of that with all the freaking people? And I think that's what, like you just said a while ago, physically they have to be prepared, but mentally they have to have that talent to be able to, all right, if I'm going to be this person, I ain't got to just act like this person. I got to be this person. Right. I got to remember. I got to find some way to associate.
Right.
Like you just said, all of that information and store it in file 13. And when I see Jim, I got to remember all these names.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you do that. Because I couldn't tell you what I ate for dinner last night when it comes to that type of thing. And people.
One more story about Garth. When I first got here, I had worked at a country music station up in Maine for 5 years. Garth was everything, right? Mm. My first day, the news director said to me and a photographer, I think Mike Hayes, said, go down to Pancake Pantry and get us some MOSs. And I was like, what's an MOS? And it's like interviews with man on the street there, just take a topic and interview. And we're going there, and we get out of the car, and we're walking over toward the Pancake Pantry. All of a sudden, Mike takes his camera, turns it around, and sets it on the ground. And I'm like, what are you doing? He said, look. And it was Garth Brooks and his family coming out of the Pancake Pantry, and that was a sign of respect, that I am not going to take a picture of you with your family, and I just want you to know that. And I thought that was I was like, all right, this is really cool. This is going to be a fun time if I make it this week.
Yeah. So, well, I will tell you this, and this is on a personal level with Garth, and a lot of our friends through me and my wife know this. I think the time frame that it's been since then, but a lot of people judge what they hear. So I'm going to give them a little bit of something to judge, basically.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause you're convicted before you're even prosecuted these days, and
well, the headline is
headlines. It is what it is, but Garth was my daughter's all-time favorite country artist, and Kid Rock was her other rock favorite artist. When she got diagnosed with brain cancer and she had to have emergency surgery, and they said, she's got 12 to 14 months to live. So we were her caregivers until that doom day. Yeah. Well, I would come in every day, and make her laugh, or I'd get her something, and something to make sure every day was special, because it's your last days coming up. Got down to the end, I couldn't make her laugh no more. I'd come in and with the best joke, or I'd come in with the funniest T-shirt or something, and she'd just look at you. And I thought, man, I'm running out of options here. Yeah. So I called a buddy of mine, and I said, hey, I got a number for Garth, but it's not any good anymore. I said, have you got a good number? And he said, yeah, I'll send it to you right now. He goes, what's up? And I told him, and he said, yeah, man, call him. So I called, nobody answered. Yeah. So I called back, and I said, hey, do me a favor. It was probably an unknown number. He didn't want to answer it, didn't know who it was. Tell him what's going on, and tell him to give me a call if he would help. And so he did. Yeah. He called right back, and he goes, man, what's going on? Yeah. So I told him the whole story about, we're not going to have her, and I'm trying to make her smile, and she's got maybe 3 or 4 more months to live. And he said, okay, what do I do? Do I call Mom? You said she can't talk. And I said, no. I said, you'd have to probably FaceTime her if you're up for that. And I said, Bobby, Kid Rock was her favorite rock and roll player, singer. I said, he just sent her a big long video in like 3 different segments.
He does that a lot.
Yeah, and which just made her grin from giggles to giggles. And all of her girlfriends would come over and visit her, and she would show them the video where he was talking to her and this, that, and other. Garth said, I got you. So he called my wife, and he set it up. I had no idea what they had planned. So he FaceTimed her. He said, let's just make this a lunch date after the first time he FaceTimed her. And he FaceTimed her up until the day she passed away every single day. And it put a smile on her face. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally
no one knew about it. He was just doing it just because he knew he had
and it didn't end there. Yeah. He still, him and my wife still talk. On a monthly basis, sometimes 2 or 3 times a month, sometimes go a month without it. But he'll just text out a clue, hey Mama, how's it going? Yeah, and that means so much. Yeah, and she sees that she lights up just like Whitney did, and I think it's good for her soul, and I think he saw that. Yeah, it's good for her soul just as much as it is and was for Whitney.
Yeah.
And in turn, it's good for my soul to know that she can still smile. After 4 years, she still struggles.
Yeah.
You know, when you lose a child, it's
I'd
not
argue
like,
it probably good for Garth's soul a little bit too, to be able to know that he was
Oh, yeah,
having an impact on someone like that. That just seems like his brand of
that's it.
compassion.
We carried him a big old picture of her senior year, and it's the one that everybody loves. They said that's our Whitney right there. Yeah, that's her, that big beautiful smile. So we carried him a big, I think it's like 11 by 17 or something. He hung it in his house.
Yeah,
it's
that's amazing.
Yeah.
You talk about that, and it reminds me of some of the kids over at the Ronald McDonald House that you meet, and they're in the battle of their life, and they haven't lived much of a life to begin with, and they're already there, and it just hits you. It just hits you. You understand the impact, and it's just not fair. You trade places with these kids in a second because what's 6 years on this earth, and then you're facing stuff that none of us will face, most of us, in our lifetime, right?
I get it. And you know, nobody understands it. Everybody tries to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, why would God allow this? Why would this allow this and this, that, and the other? And I said,
not for us to ask those questions.
and everybody knows who the man I call my grandfather, and he was an amazing man, Jerry Chestnut. But he wrote a song one time.
Jerry Chestnut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He wrote a song one time, and it was called "The Wonders You Perform."
Mm-hmm.
And I challenge anyone to listen to that song. Tammy Wynette cut it. It was #1 for I think 8 or 9 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And you listen to that song, and there's all the answers. And he said, I didn't write that song. He said, I was writing another song, and it was called "A Good Year for the Roses" that George Jones did.
Of course.
And he said, "Good Years for the Roses" came out first, and he said, the only thing that knocked it off was "The Wonders You Perform."
Yeah.
So we were talking about rock stars.
Yeah.
So,
you were making me think. I was like, I've met Alan Jackson. I had conversations with Merle Haggard. I met George Jones and Nancy Jones. I'm like, Chet Atkins.
Oh yeah.
I came out of a guitar lesson at what was the place over in Hundred Oaks called Mars Music, right?
Mm-hmm.
Andy Gurley was my instructor. I came out and there was 2 guys holding up a man, and they were standing in front of the display for the Chet Atkins guitar that was there on sale. Mm. And I sat there and I looked for a minute. I was like, that's him. Mm. And it was just a couple days later that the news came across that he passed away. And I was just like, I was probably witness to one of his last times out of his house. Mm. And one of the things he did was went over and look at that display of the guitar with his name on it.
That's comforting to know that he went out as what he was.
Yeah.
Nothing else. Not the man dying in the bed and wondering or regrets, this, that, and other. That's who I am right there. That's who I am.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we've got a guy coming in here shortly. He's going to stick his head in. He just walked in the bathroom. See if you recognize him.
Should I go to the bathroom and check?
I don't think you should. You might have camouflage on. You never know.
On the second thought, I won't go in there. Thank you. Yes. Good.
Yeah. But what is the craziest story that you've either heard or you don't know if it's true, but it's lingered for years, and it's just the one story that stands out to you, and you're like, man, I don't know if it's true or not, but it's an amazing story.
Man, I don't know if I can mention those stories. You
Sure.
can get people in trouble, Jim, for doing that stuff.
That's okay.
That's called pushing a rumor forward. There.
This whole segment is called "God, I Hope It's True."
I don't know. You used to hear about, I don't know, different people getting together and stuff like that didn't make it into the thing. No, I don't. I get icky talking about that. No, ask me like Christmas morning bombing, okay? That's where I'm comfortable.
Yeah, they were literally blowing our phones up.
Oh gosh.
But hey, kid, stick your head in there and see if you know this guy.
Who was that? Is it Marty? Oh, Bobby, what's up, brother? Or is it a lookalike? It's a lookalike. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Even with the Detroit D on the forearm
it's
there.
real too. It's not a stick-on.
That is awesome. Nice to meet you.
You too, man. Likewise.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
that's Don.
Don.
He is our next guy we're interviewing, and he is a
Kid Rock impersonator.
No, he is. We call him a tribute artist because he don't try to impersonate. He thinks so much of him that one day he thought, you know what, I've got to make sure that I give this guy his credit where his credit is due.
So I was playing golf with a friend of mine, Nikki's husband, and Justin, and we called up Bob, and we were going to play golf with him that morning over at Old Hickory Country Club. And we got two, 3 holes into it, and my phone rings. It's Bob. He's like, "Yeah, come to my house. We're going to go play golf." And I was like, "But we are playing." He said, just bring your bags. Come. So we get in our car. We drive over to his house. We're hanging out in his back studio. And he's like, "The helicopter will be here in a few minutes." And we're sitting there. And Jimmy John's Global Ranger comes in, lands in the middle of the field with all his horses. Doors swing open. We throw our gloves in. And then we go out to Honky Tonk Central in Cookeville and played golf out there.
Gosh.
Landed on the driving range. I was like, this is what it's like to be a real rock star.
It is.
This is what it, like the whole time it's happening, you're like, I can't believe I'm flying in a helicopter, landing on the practice range.
I talked to a rock star one time, and I'm not going to mention his name just yet, but he said, man, being a rock star is getting out on stage and doing your thing, and everybody loves it. He said, but to be a full and complete rock star, it's about the entrance and the exit.
Right.
He said both of them have to be grand.
Right.
And I was like, wow.
Oh, that guy has got it.
That's why I keep getting the shows, man. Just tell him to sometimes just zip it. You're hurting both of us.
Yeah, definitely. But it was great to have you today.
It's always.
Amazing.
You know what? This was actually 2 hours shorter than our lunch that we had the last time. Right?
Word.
Carrie said, when you get me home, I said, it's Jim. I don't know. I can't give you an honest answer on that. It's great to see you, man. I love just chatting and talking to you.
Parents, when I would pick up women for dates,
Right.
Girls for dates.
Right.
When y'all gonna be home? I don't know. It's Jim.
No, it's a pleasure. It's an honor. It really is. Thank you for inviting me to do
vice
this.
Vice versa.
Yeah.
More so. It's also, one of the things that we didn't mention is I used to pick on you just about every morning I was in town.
Oh yeah,
I would text him during his segments and make fun of what he was talking about.
Hey, it was nice to know someone's watching, right? You're sitting there with robotic cameras, and you have no idea if one person. So you get a text, and it's like, "Hey, Jim's watching," and everyone next to me would be like, "Jim who?"
Yeah, yeah.
Jim Brown.
Yeah.
Who else?